Okay, perfect. Hi everyone. Thanks for coming today on the session on AI agents in production. My name is Finn, and I'm here with Aisha and Olivia from Adasite's analytics team. So, they're the ones actually running a lot of workflows daily with our clients. So, it's a live look today at how we use AI agents in production at Adasite. So, what works, what doesn't, and some guardrails that we put in place. So, we're Adasite, a certified Amplitude implementation partner. We help teams turn data into better decisions through a lot of analytics, experimentation, and AI-powered workflows. So we've delivered 100 plus implementations across a lot of growth-focused companies, and we see a lot of companies trying to configure AI context and other features, but not really knowing how to leverage it. So that's what this webinar is about. So how to use AI daily. And we've also got a free AI readiness audit. As you can see here, we've got 3 spots left this month. So if you want us to take a look at your setup after this, just let me know. Okay, then let's jump in.
Fine. Okay. So I know this is a little bit repetition maybe for you, Natalia, but I wanted to cover again like what is AI and AI agents in Amplitude. So then that way everybody has the right context before we begin. So next. Okay, so why Amplitude AI? So in 2014, Amplitude started with product analytics. So that is their basically core bread and butter. You can see events, you can see user properties there, and that's how Amplitude was made. And then in 2022, they started to do digital optimization. And then now in 2026, because we have AI everywhere, basically Amplitude now can leverage AI for your data. It's really good because basically the data that is coming into Amplitude, it already has a typical format, right? It has a user property, it has a user, it has the events that are coming in with all the event properties. And this is where AI can come into play much faster because a big part of it is because data is not always uniform. So when you have this data that are uniform with the same layout and everything, it's really good for us to be able to um, add AI layer on top of it. So the goal of Amplitude AI is to move from your noise, so all this data coming in, to an actual signal. So you spend less time building charts, and more time just acting on those insights. Next. Okay, so there are multiple AIs and AI agents in Amplitude. So the first and the most useful one I would say is chat. So if you don't know where to begin, you start with chat. Chat is basically like ChatGPT, but in Amplitude is great. You can ask them to build charts, you can ask them to build dashboards, you can even ask them to like, hey, draft me an email, right? So some of the requirements here is that you have to make sure that your AI context is filled. Um, I will showcase that. I'll showcase how people would do that. And then you make sure that all your events and event properties and the user properties, all those fields are filled so that AI knows what is really going on. Next. Okay, so here are all the agents that we have. So we have dashboard agents, we have session replay agents, we have customer feedback agents, and website conversion agents. So each of these agents have different purposes. So if you look at the dashboard agent, what it does is that it basically takes a look into your dashboard that you have built. It monitors that and identifies trend. It figures out, hey, what's really going on there. It does a root cause analysis there. So it's really good if you already have a dashboard in place. The requirement for this is obviously number one, you have to have a dashboard built, duh. Um, but also at the same time, you need to make sure that the dashboard itself serves a specific purpose and has all the descriptions in it. Session replay agent here, it basically acts like a your UI UX team, right? Where it goes through each and every single one of the recordings, figuring out, hey, what's really going on? What is Olivia doing? For example, oh, Olivia's rage clicking. Why is that happening, right? So it also looks into like the drop-offs and also the frictions, right, that comes with it. So the requirements is for you to enable session recordings. So we must have recordings there, but also at the same time, it's good if you have a funnel that you want to look at because it gives you detail. Okay, now I want to see where it's a specific drop off or a specific item that I want to focus on. For example, I say, okay, I want people to make a purchase. How do I optimize that? What are people doing prior to doing purchases? Okay, so next is also customer feedback agent. So with customer feedback agent here, this is really cool in my opinion, is when you have customers that are coming to you and they're telling you, hey, I don't like this product because of X and Y, or hey, I like this feature because of X and Y, we can marry that together with the actual events in Amplitude, right? So this is where customer feedback agent will be very helpful. You basically can send data from Zendesk or Salesforce or Klaviyo or anything that can collect any feedback from them and then marry that data together with Amplitude data. The requirement for this one here is that you have to have the feedback or the complaints synced over to Amplitude so that you can actually marry that data with the user. And lastly, here is the website conversion agent. This one is really fun if you run experimentation because basically you can look at certain funnels, right? You can monitor certain funnels, you can understand what is going on there, where are the drop-offs, and then once you do that, it looks at the full conversion and then it gives you ideation for what kind of experimentation to run. Um, the requirements for this one here is that you have to have the funnels created for which funnels that you want to optimize and also understand like which sections that you want improved. So for example, I say, hey, I want to make sure that the onboarding process is seamless. I want people to onboard as much as possible, highest conversion rate for onboarding. Then what it will do is that it will look at the funnel and then it will say, hey, I can see that there's a big drop off in this step. Let's try doing this and that kind of experimentation. And also, I believe if you have session recording, they can also create a what's it called? They can also create some mockups design for you. And that will be helpful. It's not perfect. The design is not always beautiful, like how if you do it with a designer, but it gives you an idea of what kind of experimentation to run. I can see that we have
Olivia, yeah, we have a
question. Yeah.
question. Do you know if customer feedback agent works with NPS scoring?
I believe it should work with NPS scoring as long as you're able to, sorry, marry the data over. But personally, in my opinion, it is best for you to have um, paragraphs or like information or like complaints or like things that they enjoy about your product is because what it does is that it ties together specific keywords for you. So if let's say your product is about Amplify, which is like a Dropbox, for example, and you have all these, I would like to have more free storage or something like that. So it groups all that categories together from that wording that they have and then tie it together with events that are specific to storage information. Okay, next, please. Yeah, sorry. Okay, so where do they sit in this platform here? So if you see Amplitude here, they have three layers, right? The first layer is sense, the second is decide and act. So in sense, right, we basically have automated setup or AI visual labeling. Sorry, with AI visual labeling, basically you could start tracking events just by clicking on it. So you can say, okay, I want this button. And then I would name that, for example, button clicked. And this is where AI visual labeling is very handy because you don't really need to implement everything. You can just click and tell them what event this is. For the side, you have automated insights and also interesting replays, right? This is where you have all this information coming in so you can figure out, okay, where does it go? And then lastly is act. So act is when we will use other agents. For example, okay, now I have AI dashboard agents. How do I decide and how do I conduct this analysis? It's really good because now you can connect this over to your MCP. If you click next, Aisha. Yeah. So this is where it becomes like a handy tool because whatever data that you have in Amplitude, you can send that over to other AI tools. So for example, you figured out, okay, from the website conversion agent that you want to run X experiment, right? You can ask Figma to mock up a design for you. And then from there, that Figma, you can maybe send it over to Lovable. And then from Lovable, you can publish into your website where you can feed it back to Amplitude and use AI visual labeling to track your events again. So this is where the ecosystem works. It's amazing. I would recommend if you have Amplitude and you have Slack, try connecting those together. It's the easiest one to do. It basically showcases, hey, what is really going on here? You can ask it as if you're asking just someone for data. Okay, next, please. So this is where we would like to build AI maturity, right? We start with crawl. Basically with crawl, we want to make sure that, okay, we fix some taxonomy, we use chat, right? We ask it questions. And then when we walk, we want to use agents, right? Hey, can I monitor the dashboard for me? What is really going on in the session? What does this recording say? And then when we say we want to run, right? That is basically saying, hey, I want to connect this over to MCP. I want this flow to be seamless, like the one I mentioned earlier, right? And then, this is how it would work. Next, please. Okay, so this is where this is very, very important for us to have AI context. Next. Okay, so where can I start adding context? So I can share this briefly. And if I could share this real quick so I can showcase to you what that looks like. Okay. So this is an example of that. This is where I would add AI context here. So if you actually go to your settings and then you go to AI controls here, this is where you'll add some AI context to your product. You can drag and drop a file for AI to read through, or you can actually add it here. So in this example here in the demo account, we have a product. It tells basically AI agents, what is it? So it tells me, okay, this is amplify here. This is the user flows that I want to see, right? This is some of the critical metrics that I want to see. This is my business goal. So it's very important for you to give AI the relevant information so that when they build charts for you, when they build dashboard for you, it all comes down to like, hey, I understand what you needed. This is why I'm building this for you. This is the reason why. Another place for you to add context also is in other sections such as the data. Ah, I don't, yeah, I think Amplitude is erroring today, but basically you can add information such as what is this event, right? So for example, if let's say I have an event called transaction completed, what is it? It gives me like an information, okay, this event is triggered after we receive payment, for example. So this is where we will add this description here, and we will also add descriptions in the event properties. So this is where I would say context is very important because without context, AI doesn't really know what to do, right? So yeah, I think that's all the slide for me. Aisha, please take over again.
Thank you, Olivia. I can take over from here. Okay. Hi, everyone. So I'm going to talk about how you can automate weekly reports using Amplitude AI. So this is a really cool feature in Amplitude, and the goal is very simple. So instead of pulling data out from Amplitude directly manually, AI can basically Amplitude AI can basically automate that for you. So what you need to do is okay. So the first thing is that before jumping into the tool, you need to define your business goals. What business goals do you want to track? What metrics do you want to track? And what insights do you want in your report, right? So what I usually do is I usually want these 6 metrics in my reports. So I build a prompt for Amplitude AI to add executive summary, then I would add users and acquisition for traffic and growth. Then I would want to add revenue and transactions for business performance, cancellations and churn for retention, errors and frictions for any drop offs, and then any AI recommendations to turn that data into decision. So you won't only have data, you will also have decisions using Amplitude AI. So that is when it gets really cool. That Amplitude AI doesn't only create the report for you, it gives you the data, and then it also turns it into decisions by giving you recommendations. So I have a screenshot here for the executive summary. For example, this is one part of the report. So what it does is it it will give you this executive summary, because if you want a glimpse of what happened during the past week, it's going to color code some things for you. It's going to give the good signals in green, the negative signals in red, and then you can just quickly look at this executive summary, and you'll know what went well last week, what didn't go well last week. And if you also want to go into a deep dive, the report is going to give you other metrics and also give you a deep dive into the users and acquisition. And like in all these sections, it's going to give you a deep dive into that as well. I'm going to walk you through Amplitude as well after this. But this is something that's really cool that can be done like in minutes, because if I start creating the report myself, it can take like hours or days as well. Okay, so next up we have so the step number one was writing the report. Step number two was building that notebook, like AI builds that notebook. Now, step number three is when that data turns into decisions. And now, when you have that report, you can ask Amplitude AI to create recommendations based on that report. It's going to actually create recommendations for you on how to fix some problems that were encountered last week. And for the positive signals, it can give you any recommendations on what to monitor. For example, what drove that significant spike in, for example, weekly active users. And then you can monitor that specific growth, that specific spike, and you can incorporate it in the long run as well. And other than that, if you want to deep dive in a few of the recommendations, you can also do that. So what's really cool here is that it gives you a priority metrics, like this is like it's shown in the screenshot here. So it prioritizes the recommendations for you, what's urgent, what needs to be catered to right away, and then what you can look into in the long run and what's of medium priority. So you can do a deep dive into the urgent recommendations. You can then create another notebook in which it gives you a deep dive into specific recommendations that you want to look into. Moving on, now for the steps that I've already mentioned, we've created the notebook, we've created recommendations. Now, for example, if you want these insights on a weekly basis, for that, you need a dashboard agent. So what's really cool here is that you won't need to look into the report every week. You won't need to manually write a summary that, okay, this went up, this went down. We need to look into this. We need to look into that. The dashboard agent, you just need to give the dashboard agent a prompt. You need to set it up once, and it's going to do that for you weekly. You can connect it to your Slack. You can connect it via email, Microsoft Teams, whatever your team is using. You can connect it with that, and it's going to send weekly automatic reports. So, what a dashboard agent basically does, it monitors a dashboard on a schedule. It will identify some trends, some root causes, and frequency based insights, and it will then deliver a structured report to your email or Slack. Now, as Olivia mentioned earlier, for a dashboard agent, we need a dashboard, right? So, that will obviously be done by Amplitude AI again. We have Amplitude AI for everything. So, we can create the dashboard by Amplitude AI as well, and that will also take seconds. So there's one thing that you need to make sure of here is that for the dashboard agent, the dashboard should create certain charts. Like it shouldn't be cluttered with a lot of charts. For example, the report has a lot of charts, but for the dashboard, you need to make sure that it has some certain charts that are very important that Amplitude AI can read, because Amplitude AI is most efficient with certain important charts. So what AI does with it, it's going to read charts in context. It can flag anomalies and trends. It can give next steps and hypotheses, and it will repeat every week in a consistent manner. And whatever prompt you give it, for example, if you give it a prompt to give you an executive summary every week, it's going to give you that executive summary every week. So you need to just play around with the dashboard agent. It's actually really fun and cool to work with, and it's actually fun to play around with. Let me give you a demo on how this is done in Amplitude. So if you go to Amplitude and this is your homepage, Amplitude is very slow today, I think. Okay, so the first thing is that you need to add a prompt to create a notebook, right? So what you need to do is you're going to give a very short prompt, because also remember that Amplitude works efficiently with shorter prompts. So you need to be concise and clear in what you want. So you're going to write, create a weekly analytics notebook. And then, as I told you earlier, that you can add some sections that align with your business goals that you want to track. So for us, we do executive summary. You can include executive summary, users, and acquisition. Then you can do churn and retention. For business and performance, we can do, let me go back. Yes, we can do revenue and transactions. Oh no, let's give this a minute. Okay, yeah. Revenue and transactions. So you're just going to give this the prompt, and you can obviously customize it according to what your needs are, according to what your business goals are, right? So now this takes time. So I've already created a report earlier by using the same prompt, and look how it created such a beautiful report, such a nice report. It includes everything I needed. It includes the executive summary with color codes, and it also includes some specific charts that are related to those sections that I wanted to add in the report. Then it has a section for users and acquisition, so we can see how weekly active users are coming to your product in the last 12 weeks. So this will update with time and will show you how users are coming in for the most recent last weeks. You can change this to 4 weeks, 8 weeks, however you like. And then you can also see new users by platform. Then we have the funnel analysis part, and we also have the revenue and transactions to look into business performance, how your business is growing, how users are upgrading their plans. And then we can also see the cancellations and churn part, how the downgrade, how users are canceling or churning. You can look into that. You can look into UTM, so like you can what do we call it? Segment this by UTM source as well to look to deep dive into it. Then we can see errors and friction where users are dropping off, and we can look into that as well. And at the end, it again gives you a very good summary, a table of what happened in the last week. Okay, so now we have this report. So the next step is to create recommendations, right? We have data. Now we need the decision. What needs to be done to cater with the data that we have? For that, you only need to give a one-line prompt. So you're going to write provide recommendations based on the executive summary, and you can do that in a separate notebook. I also have that created. So for the recommendations, it's going to give you a very detailed report on the recommendations. As I've showed you earlier, it's going to prioritize your recommendations on which ones are urgent, which ones are like medium level, which ones you can just monitor. So we can go through some of the recommendations because it gives some really good recommendations. Like it kind of it first gives you the signal, then it gives you why it matters, then it gives you recommended actions, like it gives you understanding, and then it also gives you what needs to be done. So, for example, the recommended actions for okay. So first, the priority is to fix the error events immediately. So it's telling that the error events are running at around 22,000 per week. So this should be looked into. And for the recommended actions, it's giving us, for example, we can break down the error events by error type or error code. So this can tell us what basically is driving that decline, what basically is driving that spike in error events, which specific error code or error type is driving that spike, right? So that your team can then look into that specific error and can fix that. And then it is also giving you another recommendation that you can cross-reference with funnel steps. You can look at the specific funnel and you can see where users are dropping off and why they're dropping off. Then it is also giving you another recommendation. You can set an alert for this. That, for example, if Amplitude monitors the error event volume, if it exceeds a specific threshold, it's going to alert you through, for example, Slack or via email, so that you're going to know, okay, the events are increasing, the error events are increasing, and you need to look into that. Your team needs to look into that. So this is how we have all these recommendations, and these are actually really, really cool and really insightful. Like you can also look into the good signals that were observed last week, and then you can monitor what went well and why did that went well, so that you can work on that to make it better, of course. Okay, so now we have the recommendations. So for the next step, we have the next step that we have is that we want to create this into a weekly automation, right? We want a weekly report. We want to see what's changing weekly, right? So for that, we need to create a dashboard agent. And as I told you earlier, for a dashboard agent, we need to create a dashboard first. So for that, let me just can open this. Okay, so what you need to do is you need to create a dashboard with 6 to 8 charts covering weekly active users, conversions, churn, funnels, revenue, and errors. And then you can also write that, oops, errors. Then you can also write to use weekly uniques with event segmentation and funnel analysis, keeping it lean, high signal, and executive parameter. So this is a short prompt that I came up to include some important charts. And as I mentioned earlier, you need to just include some important charts, like 6 to 8 would be enough for the dashboard agent to read. Then we have this dashboard that was created from that prompt. So for this, we have like a couple of charts, a couple of important charts, for example, the weekly active users, then the upgrade plan conversions, how users are upgrading. Then we have the funnel analysis. We have the free to paid conversion rate over time, the downgrade plan conversion, and error events. So these are like how many, 6 to 8 charts maybe. So this is a good enough dashboard to create a dashboard agent. Now, if we move on to how to create the dashboard agent, for that, you just need to go to agents here. And you need to create a new agent. You need to go to create agent. And okay, so you're going to name that dashboard that we just created, and you're going to select that dashboard here, and you can name the agent anything you like, for example, like yeah. And then we're going to give this again a prompt. It can be similar to the one you give to the dashboard. I can write it here again. So we can generate a concise weekly executive summary from the dashboard, highlighting churn, sorry, users, churn, conversion, uh, funnel errors, and with percentage absolute values, clearly labeling impact. So you need to be very clear with your prompts that what do you want from Amplitude AI, because it works efficient when you're concise and clear, like as I mentioned earlier. And then you can tell, oops. You can also tell it to keep it business focused and high signal, limited to 5 to 7 bullet points without any fluff. So this is a very short prompt that it's going to then read, and you can then also connect it with your email. You can connect it with your Slack or your Teams, whatever your team uses, and you can send reports weekly. I usually do weekly on Mondays. You can you can set the time early in the morning, and you can set the time zone according to your wherever you're based. And you're going to just click on create agent and run its flow. So this I have also already created. So this is the summary that it came up with. Like it's going to come up with the summary at 6 a.m. on Monday, every Monday, and you're just going to, for example, copy. Now, what you can do is you can copy paste this report every week, and you can copy paste this executive summary that comes every week to that specific report. You can change the date every week. For example, you can set the date for today's what, like 6th. Yeah, May 6th, for example, and for next week, and you can do May 12th, and you can copy paste the executive summary. And this is something really cool. Like you're going to have insights for every week. You can create a folder where you can store these, you can save these reports for every week. For example, if somebody wants to look into what happened on May 6th, you can go and look into it, and you can look into how things changed from a certain time and how things are changing over time as well. So over to you, Olivia, again.
Great. Thank you so much, Aisha. So just lastly here, want to talk about best practices and caveats. So number one is that you want to treat your AI as an assistant, not really an oracle. So remember, you use it for like brainstorming. You have to make sure you double check their work, right? Always make sure that, hey, whatever they gave me, I do a sanity check, right? You also want to you want to prompt with business context, right? So if you can give it more information, like, hey, my normal conversion is like 2%. Is this right? Can you tell me what is going on here? AI can do like a deeper analysis for you. You want to start narrow, right? You want to focus on specific items. You don't want to have everything at the same time, right? It's just going to be overwhelming. All that signal will be noisy. So make sure you start narrow, specifically what do you want to see? Why do you want to see it? And then also make sure that you do the governance and the reusability, right? Use a neutral org for training notebooks, and also at the same time, keep agents and prompts documented so you can use it with your other team members. Natalia, I know you asked if you could share that with your team members. You absolutely can do that. Please let me know if it doesn't work. But you should work because that setting on the bottom tells us like, hey, now it's public, people can start editing themselves.
Yeah, I double checked. I have it like enabled for the org, but it only tells that they can see it in their shared list and not that they can edit it. I tried with someone from the company, but they
Oh,
couldn't edit my changes. Not entirely sure. Maybe it's also their rights. Because just switching from the viewed for you versus shared with the org, it didn't work.
oh, that's
Mm-hmm.
weird because maybe it is their access. If you can check their
Mm-hmm.
user access and amplitude, that might be.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll follow up on this one. Thanks.
Okay. That's all from us. Do you have any more questions, guys?
I will have one follow-up actually. Super nice, thank you. And actually, it's a question about what you mentioned at the very end. It's about amount of level of details that you ask the agent, because I think this is one of the default mistakes that I've also done setting my very first one. It listed a couple of areas, and actually what happened is that my agents fail. And when I opened them, they actually asked me about direction. So where do you want to go? And it was like 4 different areas and topics. So do you have any recommendations whether we should set up even multiple different agents on one area? Let's say we have quite a lot of session replays areas. So would I set for even the same funnel step or like one specific event, an area, session, multiple session replay agents, just tackling different topics? Would that be better?
For session replays, Olivia, do you want to take this?
Yeah, I would say that for session replays, if you have like specific one funnel or specifically like one event that you want to focus on, then I recommend that you compile them into one, right? And then have like questions and have questions there. So it feeds into like one area of like the specific funnel. But if you have like multiple funnels, this is where I would recommend you have multiple agents, just because, every funnel will be different.
Yeah, so I can give you like maybe even a live example. We have a very like a massive FAQ area, and this is where we were missing some tracking, so we set up some session replays, but it targets multiple questions. It targets area about the search bar to understand what they're looking for and if there's any articles that they're missing for specific keywords. So we want to synthesize as much as possible for the context to have a direct recommendation for the team, the content team, what to curate. But there's also about the interaction itself because it's kind of folded into, so again, behavior patterns. And then there's another aspect to understand because this is a digital university. So we're within a space where user studies and does their admin stuff. So we're also curious whether there's difference in search patterns depending on the customer segment, meaning different student type, because they search for something different. So I packed all those questions into one agent, and that's where I got stuck because they fail while running. So I had a schedule in the very first initial analysis when I set it up. I had this conversation and there were like insights, but when I put it on a schedule to run it like every few days, they usually fail. And I'm trying to optimize it now.
Yeah. Then if that's the case, then it is better to split those up. What I would recommend first, though, for you is that I would conduct an analysis on my own first, right? So I would use something like chat, maybe to figure out, hey, okay, now that I have this feature, I want to optimize this feature, right? I want to have a look at what's really going on there. So I asked chat to conduct analysis for me, and then chat can, in theory, like tell you, okay, these are the areas that I would do a deeper dive on, and then from there, that is when you can build the agents specifically to that. The reason is because right now, if you build, let's say, like 10 agents because you have 10 segments, right, it will not be helpful for you because not all behaviors are like unique or like different or like weird that you need to investigate, right? So I would ask chat first to investigate for me. Then from there, I pick ones that are like, okay, it makes sense for me to have an agent to monitor these people's behavior because I want to optimize for these. And that's when I have that agents and all these multiple agents that will look into those specific segments or specific questions or specific areas.
Awesome. So basically, global chat can already dig into the behaviors from the session replays.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, no,
that's
no,
awesome.
sorry.
Oh,
Use the events first and then ask them to do it from global session, global replay. Yeah.
okay. So this, I mean, this is the tricky one because we had bugs on that event tracking. That's why we tried to leverage
Oh.
the session replay. Maybe it's actually why it's also failing because the event tracking is not properly propagated there.
Yeah, it really is one of the recommendations that I usually give most of my clients is that um, if you have bugs or like problems that you're tracking, you'll need to be able to fix that first, right? Because whatever Amplitude eventually process in AI, that comes from the data that you feed it, right? So if the data is not accurate or the data is like, hey, it doesn't make sense to me, then whatever it spits out might not also be accurate, right? Because it is not really the right tracking that we have.
Yeah. Very good point. But like, actually, what reminds me, I'll take one more question. At the very beginning, Olivia, you were talking about AI visual labeling. Um, Actually, I think this is something I might not have fully discovered yet. Is it instead of visual labeling feature, or where is it to discover?
I'll have to get back with you on that, on where it is. I'm pretty sure your dev can tell you where it is. I cannot remember the top of my head right now. I will
Okay.
maybe send like a follow-up, but basically it is a lot like it is basically a lot like the events that you see from Amplitude Default. So you know like how they have like button clicks and then they know
Mm-hmm,
that the button
mm-hmm,
clicks is because someone clicks on something. It's pretty much like that, but you can say, okay, if person clicks on this, then this is the event that they're doing. The only caveat here is that if let's say you click on a button, for example, that says register, right? That will trigger an event. For example, you say that triggers an event like, okay, registered completed, for example. But in reality, right, if a person completes a registration, somewhere in the backend should be able to confirm that you were registered. So this is where a small disconnect might happen. Not
mm-hmm,
everything that you use in visual labeling can be used for your tracking because if let's say those events need backend to confirm, you'll still need to track those events the regular way. You cannot use visual labeling. But I will
mm-hmm.
share with for the documentation for visual labeling so that maybe as a follow-up email.
Yeah,
Right,
I
Finn?
can do that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, guys. Then thank you so much for attending this session, and we'll send you the recording after. Thank you.
Thank you, team. Bye bye.
Bye.